I went way deep on this. I'm basically 300 meters above the ocean level, which you can see here. I'm on top of a peak, alone in nature. I figured I wanted to do this kind of a spiritual growth journey. Sometimes I like to just sit in nature and just collect my thoughts, basically. And it helps a lot to gather my mind, gather my thoughts. I wanted to tell you my story properly, without any distractions, and in a scenery where you can see what I love. Like this. This is what I love. So, where do we begin? I've been trying to structure my story as best as I could. There once was a little boy, an ordinary boy who went to school and had these big dreams of just going to school, playing video games, just live life with his friends, having big adventures, drinking alcohol, and this boy used to buy these. This boy used to buy cases of beer when it was time for a party. 1 case per party, basically. And the parties were just fighting, lots of fighting, and hooliganry, if that's even a word. It was, looking back at it now, a very unproductive youth. Partying, getting into trouble, doing these things that probably wasn't viewed as a normal thing. Because Jackass was big at that time. Jackass was a big inspiration. And when you live in the mountains, you find fun where you can find fun. The Dudesons. That's what we did, right? I really hope that the wind is not going to make a sail out of the camera right now. That would be horrible. But yeah, the youth was very unproductive, with lots of alcohol and fighting and chasing girls, and it's like the youth of any kid, I guess. But when it came time to go to school and actually get an education, I was not a fan of the school system, school in general. And I was branded a retard, basically, by my teacher back at the time, because I changed schools. She was hating on my handwriting because I learned to write cursive. And when I changed school, they did not write cursive, so changing that back was kind of a hard thing. And so I got branded with ADHD and learning disability, all of that good stuff. I then got told that I should study electronics, or I should go to this school to educate myself within electric work, basically. I had this idea that I was going to be an ROV driver when I was educated or graduated, because there was a lot of money in that job, in the oil business. I mean, it came from a good place. People wanted to look out for me and wanting the best for me. But when you don't develop the strength and the actual passions of a kid, and you advise them to just do something because you think there's a lot of money in it, It's not necessarily the greatest strategy. So I went out of there with what I think is a school record low grade. Like the average was horrible, horrendous. 0.6 out of 6. That's good. That's impressive on the negative scale. My father has always been in the health sector basically. He's a paramedic. So I saw that I viewed his job or his occupation as exciting, giving and helping, and fulfilling. You know, saving lives. I mean, what can be more fulfilling than that? So I started to educate myself within health with the aspiration of being a paramedic. But for some reason, I don't know, I finished that school year and I got into computer science. So I did that. And just like inches before the graduation, I woke up next to my current girlfriend, my then current girlfriend, and my arm was 11 centimeters larger in diameter. It was huge. So I thought I had been sleeping weird. Like I thought I had been sleeping in a different position and just blocked off something and just that it would go away, but it didn't. So we went to the doctors after it turned out that it wasn't going away and the pain was getting stronger, and the doctors didn't really help. They gave me some pills, said chew on this and then wait for a bit. That's good advice. We went back and forth for weeks, getting more pills and painkillers and more. Try that. Maybe it's that. Maybe you have the flu. Maybe it's a bug bite. Maybe it's an allergic reaction. Lots of different theories. I was 18, I think. And then a doctor just walked past the examination room and he said, "That is not a flu or a bug bite." He had suspicions of a blood clot. And it was. It was. So I got rushed to the hospital, private cab. Rushed to the hospital where doctors were waiting for me, and I thought I was going to die. I was like, what? Blood clots? Those are serious, right? I'm just 18. So I got rushed in and they threw me into this little cot in this little room, and I figured that's good. They have time to stow me away, so I might not be that far off. And after a few hours in that hospital, they came back and said, yeah, okay, it's definitely a blood clot. We did the MRI and stuff. You've done the tests, and you have a blood clot. You have to get to the national hospital. And I got hurried out. And I was driven to the airport where there was a plane waiting for me. A little medical plane just for me. So they flew me to the capital, and there on the strip there was an ambulance that hurried me to the hospital, and I was sure that I was going to die. Like, there was no question about it, I was dead. But no, I came there to the hospital and I was standing. I could walk and I could talk, and as I was getting admitted, I was talking to the receptionist and she said, "What? You should not be alive. You should not be able to talk to me," because my CRP levels were off the charts. Like, they were off the charts. I'm still having troubles believing that it's true, but they were in the several hundreds. And then after a few weeks in there, getting operated upon and tested a lot of different treatments and lots of stuff that didn't really work at all, I got put on this lifelong treatment of blood thinners. That's it. They couldn't do anymore. After that, I kind of had this psychotic break, or this psychological breakdown. I realized that my life was not going to be the same, that my life was not going to be normal. And I also had this encounter with death. Like, I got to know death on a different level. I befriended death. Death became peace. I don't know. But it threw me into a negative spiral. It threw me down to a really bad rabbit hole. And so I started hanging out with the wrong kind of people. And I'm shaking. It's cold. It's really cold. I think it's below 0. I started hanging out with different people that was not good for me. And long story short, one day we ended up trying to break into an electronics store. And seeing that we couldn't break into that electronics store, we headed over to a mall. And I was stupid back then. While he was trying to break into the mall, he came back, crossed the corner, or rounded the corner, and threw a can towards me, a red can. The cap was open, so there was something that spilled out. Sorry. It turned out that the contents of that can was gasoline, and it was all over the place. So, me having been sitting there for a long time, I was bored. And without even thinking about it, I was thinking this was going to be fun, to set fire to this little puddle of gas. Turns out that fire got bigger than intended. That little puddle of gas was not just a puddle. It was connected to a stream of puddle. There was gas all over the place, and so all of that gas ignited, and it exploded. Sorry if the wind is going into the microphone right now. So yeah, the gas ignited, exploded all over the place. My pants ignited. Like my pants were on fire. Not a very, very pleasant ordeal. So as I was panicking and trying to take out the fire on my pants, I saw that the pallets I had been sitting on had also caught fire, as well as the entire area around me. And so I ran. I ran fast. I could not be caught setting fire to pallets. That was my thoughts right there. But in reality, something way worse was about to happen. Because as we ran, this was a small town, so we ran away and around the town back towards where I lived. And as I gazed back towards the mall, I couldn't see the mall directly, but I could see the orange hue over where the mall was placed. So that was a lot bigger than just the pallets. I really did not know what to do. I freaked the fuck out. Went home, tried to calm down, and we went back to see what the fuck we'd done. The dude I was with used a sweater from my house. Now I was young and I thought it would be cool. I thought it would be cool to have a sweater with my name on it. So as we got back there, and we asked the fireman if what happened, right? He saw my name on the chest of this guy. And we went back to my house, still kind of shocked as to what we were doing, but we thought, maybe we got away with it. Maybe we got away with it. I don't think I slept that night. And I woke up from the knocking on the door, and it turned out to be two cops, two policemen. They wanted to talk to me about something that happened last night. We had been observed. I freaked the fuck out. That was not a very pleasant way to wake up the day after a huge bender. Got down to the station, got interrogated. This was my first run-in with the law. And so I didn't say anything. I didn't want to say anything. I said we drank. We didn't do anything special. We were out there watching the fire. Then there was a knock on the door, and it was my mom. She heard that we were caught or taken down to the police station. After a little talk with her, I figured the best thing would be just to come clean. All the cards on the table, right? So I did. I explained my part in all of this. And so when we got out of there, my accomplice was being interrogated in the next office, and we were placed in the back of the police van after sitting in a tiny little cottage, or like tiny little room with just one chair in it. Claustrophobic as fuck. We got into the car, and he said, "Did you say anything?" I said, "No." "Well, I told my part of the story, but I didn't say anything about you." And then he said, "Good, me neither. I didn't say anything about anything." My world kind of crashed when he said that, because now I was alone in this. This was my doing. Like, I figured now my life is over. This is bad. I'm already on the way to the prison with this dude who's basically thrown me under the bus, not owning up to what he did. That was interesting. Got into the prison, and we were already celebrities because everyone knew what we were done. Everybody knew what we had done because it was all over the news. Every news channel was covering this. I was there for 14 days. Not really long, but enough to think that my life is over. And I didn't know when I was going to get out. I thought I was going to be in there forever. I mean, I was 20 years old and not really knowing anything about the prison system. But he got out before me. And now I thought, shit, that's not cool. And I got this rage within me, and I wanted to kill him. Literally, I actually got information about where to find acid. I was going to kill him. I was in a dark place. And then I got out. After 14 days, I started to drive towards him where he lived. I think it was a 6-hour drive all the way to him, and I stopped at 4 hours, figuring that this is not a good idea. I had acid in the trunk to dispose of his body. I haven't thought about this for a long time. So I got back home, and I started hanging out with other people of equally bad character and influence. Everyone shunned me because I had burned down the mall, and I was the pest, basically. I was the black sheep of the town, and this was a small town. Everyone knew who I was. So I started hanging out with this new dude who actually took interest in me and my story. Of course, the fire came up. Everyone knew about the fire and he wanted to know, but he didn't want to know from the same place as the other ones that I'd asked. There was even people coming up to me and saying, do you know about the fire? I was one of those people that burned it down. He was actually trying to make me believe that he was me. He didn't know who I was. He was trying to tell me that he was part of something horrible and acting as he was me. That was fucked up. So, being a celebrity on that, being infamous, changed me. I got this power feeling. And I started doing criminal things. I knew that I was going to have debts. Holy shit, it's cold. I knew that the debt was going to be big, massive. I didn't know how massive. I just knew massive because my lawyer that I've never met went into the media and saying that I was going to be a debt victim for life and was never going to have a life, basically. Thank you for that. That does something to a 20-year-old's mind, by the way. So I started to commit robberies with this guy, 3 armed robberies that was meant to get money to pay the debt. Don't do that. If you do something stupid, don't do more stupid stuff to cover up the first stupid thing you did. That is the worst thing. You can take it from someone with experience. Okay, believe me. One thing led to another, and soon enough, we really didn't have any regard for anyone. We did stupid, evil stuff. And I got caught. Because one of the first inside guys from the first robbery were bragging about this in school. So I got caught, arrested by SWAT, being arrogant as fuck while dropping off the girlfriend I had back then. The entire bus. I was dropping her off on the bus. I drove past the bus. There was a car following me. And when I stopped, the car behind me stopped behind me, or parked behind my car, and there was all of a sudden police cars everywhere. And we got stopped by the SWAT, or the Norwegian equivalent of SWAT, thrown up against the bus. Everyone on the bus saw what happened, and they saw this screw up, this fucking idiot, dropping off this girl, kissing her goodbye with handcuffs behind my back. I said that I was going to call her as soon as I could, but I got thrown into prison. Arrogant as fuck, I denied everything. And I was in solitary for way more than the law permits. But they found the loophole, so they just repeated one cycle basically over and over again. It messed with my head. Completely messed with my head. And then the first 7 months of that prison stay was in solitary confinement. But it was only the first 4 months that was forced solitary confinement, where the max period is 2 weeks on that level of confinement, and they just applied for new 2 weeks right before the first 2 weeks was over, and they repeated this. So I got fucked. I contemplated suicide more often than I care to admit. And I faced death again. I faced death and I became someone else. And if I knew what I know now, I've said that many times, I would have been another person now, but it wouldn't be as impactful to my life if the story hadn't gone that way. I was in prison for 3 years, and when I got out, not really 3 years even, I was in prison from 2008 to 2011, but just shy of 3 years. And so I started working again. try to get a life. I was never going back to prison. And I had this new education, new knowledge. Because prison is a educational system for criminals. You get to know people and you learn stuff. And if you choose to implement that stuff, well, then you're in the loop. The repeating loop. So I got out, I started working, and my blood clot was still acting up. I was starting to faint on the job, and I had a lot of problems with performing menial tasks, like getting dressed. I felt like a failure. I was a failure. Complete failure. But I got this job at the factory. I got the job at the factory and I worked hard. I had blisters on my feet. I was really trying to make a life for myself. And all of a sudden I had money. And also the debt. A lot of people are probably wondering what happened to the $4 million I got in debt. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't think I said that. I got $4 million sentenced to pay $4 million within 2 weeks of the verdict. Even the judge laughed. But Norway has this thing where if you fuck up, you get this one shot, one chance. So they wrote off a lot of the debt, but it's still a mystery as to why that amount got erased. Because something must have happened. I don't know. We were talking about it like yesterday. Oh, it's cold. We were talking about it yesterday, me and my mom, and something must have happened. Something that we don't know. Because $4 million don't just disappear. But I started this job at the factory and I started to get money again, and all of a sudden I had this different mindset, this rags to riches, right? Failure to kind of success, I guess. Now I was a robot in the prison or in the system. So I got more. I took up a loan. I bought a car. I was really irresponsible with the debt with the money because I had a job, right? And then all of a sudden, someday the blood clot started acting up again and I started fainting. And it hadn't happened for 2 years. So I lost the job. But while I was there, I met this girl again. Oh, and we had a son. And he changed my perspective on life. My son changed a lot for me. Because I had someone to look out for. I had a reason to change. And so I did. I started to educate myself on how to make it online because I knew that I had to figure out some way to make a life for myself. And I had been doing it a little bit since I got out from prison, but not really serious. And then, after I lost the job, I spent some time really focusing on educating myself and learning new stuff. And so I took a little break. Went to a festival, a Viking festival, because I like Vikings. I like the values and everything. We're going to come back to that. Shit, it's cold. At the festival, I met this girl, which I didn't realize back then was going to change my life. But we started hanging out. I invited her back to my place down south. We moved in together. We had a great time. We were still fighting. We were fighting the government because she didn't have Norwegian citizenship. And I vowed that I was going to help her get a permanent stay in Norway, a life. And then she got pregnant. And we got a girl. She was perfect, unique even. Then 1 year after she was born, shortly after her first birthday, her mother received word, my fiance received word that she was deported. She had to leave for Chile. That sucked. And then I'm not a monster, so I said that she could take my daughter with her. Because I knew that mentally I would be able to handle it more than a mother could handle living without her daughter at such an early stage in life. So we didn't have any money. We gathered the money for the ticket. And I had to drive them to the airport. I had to drive them through the airport, knowing that I had to deliver them to an uncertain future where I wasn't going to be able to be a part of my daughter's life. Just the drive up there was horrible. Really bad. We got up to the airport. I tried to enjoy every second of that. The wind is going all over the place. What is going on? I tried to enjoy every second of the last few minutes I had left with them. As they crossed the gate and I couldn't follow, my fiance said, "Wave to daddy. Say goodbye to daddy." My daughter didn't really know why. Sorry. Jesus Christ. She didn't know why she had to wave goodbye to daddy and why I didn't follow. I've been with her every day since she was born. I kept myself composed as well as I could. And then as they crossed the corner where I lost sight of them, I just collapsed. I fell to my knees right there at the airport. My life was basically over. Everything just went to shit at that moment. Because once again, I was a failure. I couldn't just marry her and let her stay that way because Norway wouldn't allow me to do that with the money I had, even though I had been supporting them for 2 years. I drove back and it was the hardest fucking drive of my life. And it took a few days for me to compose myself. But I vowed that I would never fucking stop fighting the system. The system that is ripping families apart and just stepping on the little man. Even though they're pure of heart and they don't want anything other than just to be a fucking family. So I worked hard. I did a lot of shit. I learned, I studied, I educated myself. I took on small jobs from anywhere to get money. And in 8 months and 12 days, I had them back. During that time, I woke up. I had the spiritual epiphany, basically. And I started to optimize myself and develop myself as a human. And I was a completely different person when they got back. Now I was operating from love and compassion and gratitude to be alive, but still with this hatred towards the system that has done this to us. As I was building this, trying to figure out how we were supposed to get this foundation, this financial foundation, to actually just live a fucking life, I had an epiphany again. This program, the FML project. FML, financial, mental and location freedom. That was the original thing. And then during all of this, it just changed. Now it's fulfillment, motivation, and love. The wind is coming in from every angle. It's so cold right now. FML project is and will be my life's work, because now I almost died when I was driving my son to the kindergarten, or I thought I was. And because of that, I knew that I had to do something real. The FML project is going to allow me to teach my children the values that they need to know, like the real values, not the materialistic shit that we are living in right now in this world. And the masks, and the faked authenticity and all of that. But the real values, and I want them to know who their father really is. What I did for them, what I never stopped doing for them. But how could I do that? That's when this happened. The FML project, helping people through my insights and my knowledge and my experiences. Turns out that I've been coaching people for a long time. I just didn't really know. And so the FML project became this thing where I was going to teach people how to break free from the system and make a life of their own self, like take control and be their own boss. But not just financially, like mentally. Being truly happy and fulfilled and grateful and mindful. Living life. That's my story until now. Like, that's the story up until now. I believe in freedom. And I want people to be free. So I want to teach people how to be free. And I want to make something of an impact in this world. And I am going to help as many people as I can achieve what they need to do in this life. While also showing what's possible. I mean, I was the ultimate success, the ultimate failure. I was the ultimate screw up of society. The blood clot and the diagnosis and the labels and every fucking shit they threw at me. Everything was like, the society called me one thing, and I guess I'm proof that that does not have to be the entire story of your life. So I'm going to be the ultimate success story. Not the ultimate screw up. By showing people that even though your life is predestined to be shit and probably in a ditch and dead, you can make anything you want. Oh, if I survive this. Because it's cold. It's really cold. Thank you for listening to this long story. There's a lot more to it. But that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I'm going to write more books to get all the details in there. And the journey so far and what we're going to do. And in 200 years' time, I'm going to write a book that's going to look back at this. And the journey I have ahead. Yeah. Turns out that the secret to the universe is love and gratitude. Focusing on oneself and what value you can share with the world. instead of having these, being afraid of change and future, and I can't do this right here. I can't compose my thoughts. I can't keep on sitting here and freezing. Thank you so much for listening.